Hello and welcome to today's Go Anteater Podcast. This is Russell Jenkins. I am your host, and today we are with Dean Kindseth, who has been with ABC for it's been a minute. I'll just leave it at that. It's been a minute. And thank you for coming on today. I just wanted to have an opportunity to pick your brain for a second. So I appreciate you being a part of our podcast today, Dean.
Thanks for asking me.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, really what we're doing with the podcast is just like random stories within the service industry, because I think that's going to be the most appealing to our listeners, our watchers, anyone interacting with the podcast. So since you've had some time to be here, I'm sure you got a couple stories at least. So what's one of your favorite stories from the service industry?
You know, when you asked me to do this, I had to go back and start thinking about different things that have happened. And when I was in sales, there's all those crazy animal encounters sometimes going underneath homes. I had squirrels that mocked me one time from an attic. But everything the craziest stories always kind of come back to dealing with bed bugs because it's so crazy. People go absolutely crazy when they think they have bed bugs. They may or they may not, but they go crazy with the thought of something coming, these little vampires feeding on them. And of course there's the sad stuff, people with let's call it delusional parasitosis, where they think they're being bitten, but they're really not.
Right.
But the one story, I was doing sales at the time, and towards the end of the day, I got a call that this customer needed us to come out and inspect their home because they had bed bugs and they were panicking about it. So I was able to fit it into my afternoon. I stopped by the house, and when the gentleman opened the door, I was able to observe that he had probably taken, I'm guessing it was diatomaceous earth.
Oh, no.
And this comes in huge bags. And he had spread this diatomaceous earth everywhere throughout his house.
Whoa.
It was on the carpet. It was on the furniture. It was on the wood furniture. It was on the table. It was on the bed, the mattress. It was everywhere. It was so bad that I remember walking through the house, little poofs of dust would come up from my feet, walking up the stairs to the upstairs to do the inspection.
Oh, man.
On their bed frame, because that's where they felt they saw the bed bugs. But it was like, I don't know if I'm going to be able to find anything with all this dust. And there was a cat walking around, and I'm like, this is not going to be good for the cat. But so they obviously panicked, right? And couldn't wait for us to even get there before they took it upon themselves to put this material out. Well, maybe the craziest part of the story is they didn't have bed bugs, right? So they had carpet beetles.
Oh,
so they look similar, and we had, I've had a lot of calls where people had carpet beetles and thought they were bed bugs.
Right.
That is very common misidentification for someone that doesn't know what they're looking at. But my only advice to this guy is you got to get this stuff cleaned up. We probably wouldn't have been super harmful to people being in the house, but for that poor little cat, because it's smaller, inhaling that dust, I can't imagine the cleaning bill.
Oh my gosh.
For that.
Yeah.
So that's probably that was the craziest story.
Yeah. No.
I can tell you another real similar one.
Let's do it. Yeah.
It was almost the exact same scenario. There's a couple that had bed bugs, and they had been treated for bed bugs. I don't think they were treated by us, but I got the call to go out there and do this inspection. And so instead of the whole house, this lady had taken DE, and on top of her mattress, she put like a half-inch pile of dust, like poured it out around the perimeter of her bed. And I didn't find any bed bugs, but I did explain to them, and she didn't want to hear anything I was saying, that the DE was drying her skin out. So what she thought was bites was just itchy dry skin from the DE that was all over her mattress.
Yeah. Having an allergic reaction a little bit.
Yeah. So again, people just panic when they think they have bed bugs.
Oh, that's very true. It's very true. Oh, man. Yeah, that's crazy. Especially, man, that much, putting all that, even on the furniture, on the wood furniture, everywhere.
Was everywhere.
That's nuts.
I don't know how many times you'd have to unload your vacuum cleaner of the dust or whatever you would use to suck that dust up. I will tell you the other thing that was weird when I was doing bed bugs. I did bed bugs for about 2.5 years, and when I traveled, I think Katrina thought I was probably crazy. I'd take my flashlight with me. I would tear apart the hotel bedroom looking for bed bugs.
Oh, yeah.
And then we'd put our furniture up on the counters or in the bathtub. We would have bags for our clothes. Nothing ever went on the beds. Don't worry, I don't do that anymore.
Yeah. Hey, I get it. I mean, it sticks with you, right? Because, like, yeah, we might not go to those extremes today, but I'm sure when you go to a hotel, you probably at least lift it and look and make sure, okay.
I don't spend as much time anymore for some reason, but when you're in the midst of dealing every day with bed bug issues, you start thinking about what you have to go through to get rid of them and what trouble they are. So I always wanted to make sure I'm not bringing bed, because that's usually what happened. People would bring bed bugs home when they go on vacation or someone comes to their house from someplace else. So trying to avoid that.
Oh, yeah. Well, I mean, there's no coincidence. Whenever COVID, the lockdown, everything was kind of shut down, bed bug population and issues really started to come to a pretty lower standard overall because people weren't traveling.
Yeah, I would imagine.
Yeah, we didn't have that highway for them to get from one place to the other. So, oh yeah, it's a real thing. If you're listening, you get not only a little bit of a story today, but maybe a little bit of a suggestion. If you're ever going to a hotel, make sure, look at the bed before you sit down, before you throw your suitcase on it, because that's really where they get into. If you throw your suitcase on the bed because you're like, I need to unload this thing, that's where they get onto your stuff. And if they get in your suitcase, yeah, you bring them home. So check that. Don't put your suitcase on the bed before you make that inspection. So, hey, you get a story and a little tidbit. So that's not a bad thing.
The nice thing about Google is you can get some good images, because most people don't know what a bed bug actually looks like. They think they know it's a small little bug, but Google is pretty good. You can get an idea what the bugs look like, what the feces looks like, and the blood. And
all the fun stuff.
All the fun stuff.
Yeah. Well, I appreciate it. Thank you for coming today. Those are definitely some stories. Bed bug is definitely a common theme, I think, for most pest control companies, where those are stories that really stick in your head.
Yeah, those and cockroaches.
Yeah, those are the two big ones. 100%.
Yep.
Well, thank you everybody for tuning in today. Please make sure you like, subscribe, and comment on any of this, so that way you can kind of just get a part of the community going for this. And we thank you for listening. I thank you, Dean, for coming today and being a guest.
No problem.
Hope to have you back, man. Well, thank you everybody. Cheers and have a good rest of the day.
ABC Home and Commercial Services.